But no matter what I did, I could not undo the terrible harm I have caused.
In Los Angeles, a killer the police are calling the Hillside Strangler has murdered 10 young women and left their bodies on the hillsides along the highway.
It was as if a wave of evil washed over this town.
We are all evil in some form or another.
What they discovered upon their arrival was almost unspeakable.
We are all evil in some form or another.
I'm not guilty. The dead won't bother you. It's the living you gotta worry about. If I couldn't keep them there with me whole, at least I felt that I could keep their skeletons.
But no matter what I did, I could not undo the terrible harm I have caused.
In Los Angeles, a killer the police are calling the Hillside Strangler has murdered 10 young women and left their bodies on the hillsides along the highway.
It was as if a wave of evil washed over this town.
We are all evil in some form or another.
What they discovered upon their arrival was almost unspeakable.
We are all evil in some form or another.
I'm not guilty. The dead won't bother you. It's the living you gotta worry about. If I couldn't keep them there with me whole, at least I felt that I could keep their skeletons.
But no matter what I did, I could not undo the terrible harm I have caused.
In Los Angeles, a killer the police are calling the Hillside Strangler has murdered 10 young women and left their bodies on the hillsides along the highway.
It was as if a wave of evil washed over this town.
We are all evil in some form or another.
What they discovered upon their arrival was almost unspeakable.
We are all evil in some form or another.
I'm not guilty. The dead won't bother you. It's the living you gotta worry about. If I couldn't keep them there with me whole, at least I felt that I could keep their skeletons.
But no matter what I did, I could not undo the terrible harm I have caused.
In Los Angeles, a killer the police are calling the Hillside Strangler has murdered 10 young women and left their bodies on the hillsides along the highway.
It was as if a wave of evil washed over this town.
We are all evil in some form or another.
What they discovered upon their arrival was almost unspeakable.
We are all evil in some form or another.
I'm not guilty. The dead won't bother you. It's the living you gotta worry about. If I couldn't keep them there with me whole, at least I felt that I could keep their skeletons.
But no matter what I did, I could not undo the terrible harm I have caused.
In Los Angeles, a killer...
Like never...
Hi guys! We're going live, Janelle, by the way.
There's always like a 3-second delay, so that's fine.
Yeah. So, hey guys, welcome to another BTC Quarent-Stream here on this lovely Friday evening. I'm
Is it
Vicky.
evening? I can't tell anymore.
Yeah, it is. It's 7. This is Janelle. She didn't say that. I'll
Hello.
say it for her.
It's fine. Sorry, my dog is now harassing me, so I'm like having to tell him to sit down.
No, it's okay. So
He's not getting on today.
people stand the wiener dog. I'm telling you.
I know. He's more famous than I am.
So we have dubbed this Friday Forensic Friday because we're trying to come up with F words, and I
Because
got this
F words.
fabulous list from my mom, who listens and watches. Are you drinking claw? Is that a claw that I just saw?
Know it.
Ain't no law when you're drinking claw.
I know. White Claw and Wiener Dogs is what I like to say.
I had no idea that you were so basic, Janelle. I had no clue.
It doesn't give me a tummy ache, so.
Oh, well, that's pretty good.
Yeah, like most everything that else does.
Well, I have another Two Thorns Raspberry Rose cider.
Nice.
It's really good, and I very much enjoy it for something that has rose in it.
Yeah, most of the time I'm not about like things that are malt liquory or whatever flavor you want to call this.
Is
This
that
one's actually good because it really does taste like watermelon.
Is that considered malt liquor?
No, but the sugar liquor that they put in it is of the same like flavor profile as like
Gotcha.
a King Cobra kind of a situation, you know.
Okay. So before we jump into all of the fun stuff we have today, we've got a lot of forensic chatter and stuff we've been watching and the return of the Florida Man game. That's all very exciting.
Return of the Mac.
Return of the Mac.
Murder.
Okay.
Murder.
But we're gonna start off.
Brother's wedding song or something.
Did they play that at their wedding?
Oh yeah.
Oh
I
boy.
think it was the groomsman that walked into that. Yeah.
That doesn't surprise me.
90s
like
babies.
at all. Oh my god. I identify with that very hard. We're gonna start off with a little forensic news, which is always fun to look into because you get some of the like developments or changes or like whatever. Like that's what you end up seeing in forensic news. So first, because of course I feel like I am obliged to talk about something related to COVID. I found a really great AP News article that talks about how authorities in Northern California have decided to start allowing some sexual assault victims to collect their own evidence, uh, which I found to be an interesting trend. I was like, I have to do this story, because I really want to hear your take on it.
Capacity?
Okay, I'll tell you that I want to hear Janelle Opinions O'Malley's
went
take.
really in a weird angle at first, but I'm like,
Yeah.
wait, I think I know what this is.
Yeah, so basically the idea is that somebody who is a victim of a sexual assault, instead of going into a hospital where you would be dealing one-on-one with a nurse in a small room collecting evidence, they would do the evidence collection at home while a nurse is on a phone call or a video call guiding them through it. Obviously, this is due to the pandemic, but officials are somewhat concerned about potential contamination of evidence that could be challenged later in court, because you are sort of like adding this element of an unsterile somewhat environment, and there's the extra like I think there's extra capacity for error by having somebody do it themselves. I don't know. I will say the temporary order does not apply to victims who are children or people who are injured. And it's only when the victim is actually comfortable doing it with themselves. They're not just like telling everybody to start doing this at home. Exams are done in the exact same way that they would be when they're done in the hospital, and all like including all of the statement taking and such. Like an officer and an advocate will join the phone call and then get off the call when the exam is taking place. And then, of course, they provide the same aftercare services as well. But there would be a nurse that directs the victim what to collect, how much to collect, like where to collect it from. Once they're finished, they put everything into a kit, and the kit is placed on their doorstep, and then a law enforcement officer comes, collects the kit, and takes it to a testing facility at a forensic lab. So, like I said, some defense attorneys have really come out and kind of said they're concerned about potential contamination and the possibilities that victims could like frame somebody. That's something that they're a little worried about too. But it seems like they've taken all the appropriate steps to ensure chain of custody. So I'm like, I kind of have some mixed feelings on this one because part of me.
I mean, well, if you understand how rape cases are handled in a hospital, they still have to get from their place to a hospital, so there's still potential for contamination of evidence anyway. And what they do is they lay out sheets and they ask you to disrobe and place it into a bag. So why wouldn't you be able to do that in your home? You know what I mean? Like that I can understand. I don't know about if they're taking, so they do swabs generally as well. Is that something that's being done in this process? Or is that something that has to be done at a later date?
That is what it sounded like to me, is they give them all of the tools that they would need. And so while they're on this phone call or this video call, they're guiding them through where to get swabs from and where to,
the swab part, I think, might be difficult. And I don't mean in terms of like cross-contamination. I mean in just being able to collect it itself. So they're swabbing like the inside of your cheek, nose, vaginally, like everywhere. They take pictures of your bruises and things like that. So in terms of the swabbing, like if you don't do it quickly, like if you don't stick it far enough up your nose or in your mouth in the correct way or hit the right spot, you're not going to get much of anything. So not necessarily that there would be cross-contamination, but just like a lack of evidence, I think would be more of an issue.
Right. And part of me is like, I feel like this would almost be easier because when a victim has to make the decision to go to the hospital and get a rape kit done, like that's a huge thing too, like physically leaving your house, going to somewhere else where, quite frankly, the situation seems to be a relatively uncomfortable one because you're in this like sterile environment with people that you don't know, so that might even make it easier for people to be willing to get like a rape kit done or something along those lines.
Yeah, if you listen to survivor stories, that is one part of that sort of journey that they go through, is the rape kit collection as being a really big like hurdle and focal point of rape. It's been described almost as being worse than being raped because of that process that they have to go through. And sitting down and having to describe in very medical terms what happened to them is very traumatizing.
So I could totally see having to do that and like being on your home turf, making that process a little easier to make it less uncomfortable too. So I'm curious to see if anything comes of this as far as like if these things are challenged in court when they eventually, or if they go to trial, and if any of the results are like skewed from at-home testing that people do on themselves. Like I'm sure something eventually, if something massive happens that's a totally big screw up with this, I'm sure we'll hear about it.
Yeah, I think it'd be kind of hard to frame somebody.
Yeah,
because the nurse is watching as you're collecting, and I'm sure you only get one tube for each thing. So I don't know. I think that's like a made up problem.
They gotta think of every
so
like possible thing. Yeah, well, So the other thing, I was just like, oh my god, do we want to get into that right now? So the other thing that I found was a really interesting study that was written about in the New York Times. And it was a study that was just released in April regarding the accuracy and reliability of using clothing based forensic identification. Um, it was a study that was done by the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences of the United States. And they were looking specifically at using photo analysis techniques that were used by the FBI to match clothing. So this study in particular, and this is, um, I'm sure it's come up somewhere, but in my conscious brain is not something that I knew was going on, I guess. But it makes sense that they would draw these conclusions. So they were looking at a paper that was published in 1999 where an FBI examiner used photographs to identify denim jeans from distinct characteristics along the vertical seams uh, that resulted from manufacturing and normal wear and tear. And they called these the denim barcodes. So it was actually stemmed from a case that happened in Washington in the late 90s where a couple of people bombed a Planned Parenthood building. And one of the things that they used for evidence was footage from like a CCTV camera where they matched images of blue jeans from like the CCTV camera footage to whatever they found. The 1999 study was used to set legal precedents to allow the use of analyzing visual elements like photographs and, or they're analyzing visual elements in photographs like facial markings, design features on clothing, and the gene barcodes that they call them. However, according to a new study by PNAS, this technique should be used with extreme caution if it's to be used at all, which I don't think either of us find very surprising. The study consisted of them buying 100 pairs of jeans from thrift stores and photographed all of the jeans along the vertical seam. And then they obtained 111 pairs of jeans from just like random volunteer workers so that they could have a wide array of things to look at. They also demonstrated the difference in photos depending on various conditions by taking 10 pairs of jeans whose seams had the most pronounced dark and light patterns and took 10 photos of each in different lighting, in different rooms with different cameras and on different surfaces. The study found that many times two images of the same seam looked very different and was even difficult to tell whether various seams belonged to the same jeans or not. Besides the lighting discrepancy, there's also a discrepancy that comes from the flexible nature of clothing. Like it's not always going to be in the same position when you photograph it twice, necessarily. They also did all of this, and even with the best case scenario and ultra refined algorithms, the rate of correct matches was about 20%. I was like, that's like
not
nothing.
Surprising.
That's nothing.
If you think about all the different types of genes there are, all the different types of people. So like I could wear my jeans out in the seam on the inner thigh of my leg, and somebody else my same size and weight and height and whatever could not.
Yeah.
So right there you're already having all of these different variations of wear and tear and
I wonder if I have, hold on a second.
Thinking about the effects of water on clothing. So if you have hard water versus soft water and how that affects the structure of your clothing. Like there's way too many variables to make that a plausible thing.
Right. So this is when I'm talking about the light and dark patterns, I'll see if you guys can see this on camera. Along these seams, you see all of this variation in like the light and the dark bumps. This is like that barcode that they were talking about. That's what they were trying to match on the jeans. So they basically are like, this is not, especially from photographs, like this is not a thing that anybody should be doing.
No.
Um,
Fibers is like, I don't know. I just don't think that it's something that can be used in a court of law.
yeah, and
there's too much doubt.
This study, in fact, stems from a study by the National Academy of Sciences that happened in 2005 that was authorized by Congress to look at forensic techniques and kind of how they're applied and validated. But that all happened after the whole big debacle at the FBI regarding hair analysis, right? Where they had to throw out like hundreds of cases.
Yep.
And basically sparked this whole debate in the forensic science world as to what is actually considered an established science. Because in this case, there was this paper that came out in 1999, and they have literally not looked at this kind of quote unquote science for 20 years. You know what I mean? It's like that everybody's just been accepting it as a thing.
Sciences like that should be reviewed like annually. There's a peer review annually is what's supposed to happen.
Right, and that's not been happening, so that's fun.
Not at all.
Yeah. So those are the two big pieces of forensic news. The one about the genes I found really interesting. I'm gonna actually in just a second I'll post a link to the study in the chat. It's really, really interesting. It's very long, but they have tons of pictures and charts and all the descriptions and a lot of background. And if you're into this thing, like we're into this, then I think you would find it interesting.
Yeah, that's interesting. We'll talk a little bit more about some weird forensic-y things that people have tried to pull off. First, I want to talk about what you're watching.
I have, and I kind of mentioned this, I think when I talked to you earlier, I've been taking a little tiny bit of a true crime break for a little while, to just like refresh, watch some of the other things that I have on my very extensive watch list. So I've been really into, well, my garbage show to just like put on now is Hoarders. I don't know. I love that.
Difficult time watching that.
But to like actually watch, I've been watching competition shows. So I finished the Big Flower Fight, which is really good. It's awesome.
I did not watch that. And I should, because
it's like sculpting with flowers. For a long time. Yeah, it's crazy. And then I watched Blown Away. That was glass blowing. That one was really cool. And
that's so funny that you mentioned those two things. The woman who is the judge in that is the mother-in-law to the woman who owned the flower shop that I worked at.
Oh, really? In Blown Away?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Her son and her daughter-in-law are very preeminent glass artists.
Wow. That's awesome.
That's so funny that you brought both of those up back to back.
We were talking about, like, I was talking with my mom about this. Like, glass blowing would be so cool to try, but I feel like I am too clumsy.
I was signed up to take a class. COVID.
I'm too clumsy a person to work in a hot shop and be around all of the hot, fiery things. So
the one that I was going to is in the middle of Illinois.
Okay.
You should go with me. It's not that expensive. They walk you through making it.
Okay.
But she's rolling it for you, and you're just getting an idea of the blowing part. So it's kind of like guided.
Okay.
It's a very limited class number, and you're making like a small project. So something like a paperweight, where you're just shaping the glass and adding color.
Okay.
You're not making these big, huge,
I know, but
things.
That would be kind of cool to try. I would totally at least try it once. That would be pretty fun.
The woman who runs these classes is really great. She does like small structure, and then if you're a little more comfortable, she'll bump you up to doing like vases and things like that. But again, super small.
Yeah.
One of her most popular ones is making a glass pumpkin, because that's like a very easy thing to do. The shape is very natural, and the loops for the vines it's just like you're just pulling it away from the rod.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like kind of easy, beginner stuff. But I've wanted to do. There's another place out here in St. Charles that does like metal forging and things like that.
Ooh, yeah. I know, that would be really
I
cool.
love me some fire.
The other thing that I've been watching is Face Off. No. Yes.
With Nick Cage and
No.
John Travolta?
It's no, not Face Off. Skin Wars. That's what it is.
Okay, yeah.
Which is body
The special
painting.
effects makeup show.
Body painting.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
like head to toe, full body, chicks wearing pasties. Body painting. It's crazy and it's really good. And the first season has a Guy Fieri looking motherfucker on it. It's really funny.
Okay.
So that's what I've been watching recently, although there's some stuff I have slated for this weekend that is of the true crime ilk, but we will talk about that in the episode we're recording this weekend. So you'll hear about that later.
Yes.
What have you been watching, Janelle?
I just watched on Hulu Framing John DeLorean.
Okay.
And if you're not familiar with John DeLorean, he made the car, the DeLorean.
Yep.
But it's a really interesting story. He was like a preeminent guy at Pontiac and like creating, he is the father of the GTO. He's the one who's like, no, we need to swap out this engine and make it big and bold and ridiculous, and like sold it to GM.
Okay.
And then he went on to not be able to really get to that executive position that he wanted. He was on the path to become president, but it was taking too long because those guys like are in that position until they fucking die.
Right,
and so he's like, screw this, deuces, I'm out, I'm gonna make my own fucking car. And then it's this whirlwind of him like pyramid scheming his way to building this car company and this car, and it ends with him getting arrested for drug trafficking.
Oh my gosh, I had no idea.
Wild.
I had no idea.
So wild. He was trying to perpetrate this drug deal to get money to fund the production of the DeLorean.
I mean,
so it already was in the works and it was going and it was being produced, but they were looking at like producing a second version. It was like his.
Was it cocaine?
Bigger,
was cocaine the drug?
It was cocaine.
Okay. I'm like, was it the 80s? This actually wouldn't be that uncommon for somebody to try to pay for their business venture with cocaine. Like.
Oh yeah. It is the most ridiculous, wild ride you will ever. They talked to his son and his daughter. And
wow.
The wife like divorced him and wanted nothing to do with him. But they talked with the guys that did the original design work with him and the undercover agents that took him down. It's bananas.
Oh my gosh.
It's such a good doc.
Yeah.
It's so strange. Yeah.
I'm gonna have to watch that one.
Weird reenactments in it. And Alec Baldwin plays John DeLorean. And it is so strange.
Oh my gosh. Strange. Of all the people to pick for a reenactment, why would you pick like a well-known
There's lots of well-known people in reenactments. It's bizarro.
That's so weird.
What happened was there were supposed to be 2 biopics made about John DeLorean, and they both fell through. And so these were the actors that had signed up to do the biopics. And they're like, yeah, we'll do some cameos for this. Sure.
Might as well if you're already prepared for it.
So weird. It's so weird. And they try to dress up Alec Baldwin like John DeLorean, but he just winds up sounding and looking like his Donald Trump character.
Is it perhaps because they were similar? Were they similar people?
Not in speech.
No.
He has like a very like it's Midwestern accent, I would say.
Yeah.
Maybe in looks a little bit like a younger Donald Trump, but the way he talks, definitely not.
No.
Definitely not.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So I was like going through Hulu. I watched that, and then I watched the AKA Jane Roe doc, which is another really fascinating one.
Yeah.
That one was another wild ride. I was just getting lost in all of these like really strange strange
Yeah.
documentaries about people.
Yeah. Now, the Jane Roe doc is obviously a reference to Roe v. Wade, and it's the woman who was behind the whole case, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh.
And it's interesting because I didn't know that they like sought her out. They were seeking out someone. Yeah. So that was a big conversation in the because they were looking for someone who is poor or underprivileged
Mm-hmm.
to discuss the issue, to kind of bring it back to choice and circumstance.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't know that. I didn't know that they were seeking out somebody, and it took place in Texas originally, which is another that's a state that's very, very against any kind of women's rights.
Right.
So
yeah,
it's very fascinating. She was an interesting woman.
Mm-hmm.
She passed away not too long ago, but very, very, very interesting life. She actually turned against her decision for a little while there, and publicly talked about how she thought she had sinned. It was real weird.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on behind the scenes, though. I don't want to spoil too much, but
right. Yeah. No, I'm looking forward to that one.
The way it appeared.
Interesting. Okay. Okay.
It's a lot of flip flopping.
Yeah.
But that's what I've been watching. We started going back to work a little bit, so I haven't been binging things.
Yeah, I'm still stuck at home in case anyone's actually
Married
wondering.
at First Sight right before I went back to work. That's another show that's
wait, that's the one on? Are you talking about the one on Netflix? Wait, what did you?
No, it's through Married at First Sight is through a television channel.
Oh, okay.
They pick hand select. It's kind of like a marriage that's like done by your family, but it's
gotcha.
Matchmaker style.
Because
it's a wild ride.
There's the one I watched the one on Netflix that was like, I cannot remember the name of it at the moment. But it was like they are speed dating kind of, but through a wall, like a sheet. And so they
Oh yeah. I watched that too. Oh, I can't remember the name of it.
They fall in love before they see each other. That was so good. It was so good.
That was so weird. I just remember that blonde-haired chick who was like,
I'm 40 or I'm 30. I'm 30 and you're 24.
20.
Yeah. No.
And she was constantly wine drunk.
Yes. She was terrible. Oh my god.
Yeah.
If you want some garbage TV,
Married at First Sight. Married at First Sight, like they're going to different towns and like sitting down with people and going through this whole application process. And they select 3 or 4 couples to match up. And for the most part, there's at least one couple per season that like stays married forever.
Love is Blind. That's what it's called.
That's what it is, yes.
If you guys want to watch some trash TV, watch Love is Blind, because it starts out being real sweet, turns into a shit show. Except for that one couple who I absolutely loved, who are like still married. The first ones to get engaged. It was like the guy in he had like kind of a chin strappy beard. He was very like emotional. The girl was a
chin strappy beard.
I think it was. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. It's good. Just watch it. Yeah.
I don't love a good chin strap. I'm not about the Amish look.
Wait. Is that
full beard, mustache, or nothing at all? Don't give me no soul patches.
Just a little one
weird chin strap.
that pokes out when you curl your lip in. Boop.
No, I don't want a flavor saver. Get out of here.
Oh my god.
Oh my god, gross. I just creeped myself out. Speaking of fluids, let's talk about junk science.
Hey, yeah, let's.
That was a good segue.
That was nice. I like that.
Let me just blow off my pun guns here.
Girl, I told you to leave those at home. Wait.
Holster.
Wait.
So we were talking about doing forensics, and I'm like, I can't not talk about forensics and talk about like the weird junk sciences that make up forensics since the beginning of time. Like now we use DNA as like the preeminent form of forensics, but for the longest time, like trace evidence and all of these ologies were the main means of forensics. But a lot of them, like we said before, aren't really vetted in the scientific method as they're supposed to be, and they're not peer reviewed annually.
Yep.
So there's a lot of issues with a vast majority of forensic sciences. But I was going through kind of all of these different ologies, and I came across some like lesser known ones that we don't think about when it comes to investigating. So pedology is the study of soil science. So
not the study of pets?
No, PED.
Oh, not the study of feet?
No.
Oh, okay.
Pedology, study science. So when we're talking about like soil on tires and things like that.
Okay.
That's what that is. And then, of course, they use things like geology as well, talking about, finding particulate matter. Like a lot of cases, I were like, oh, I like gypsum and chalk on there, trying to put them in that geographic location using geology.
Okay.
Another one that I found that was interesting, because I was looking for like ones that were used that we don't ever really hear about. And taphonomy is the study of decay and fossilization.
Is this where they like put the bodies outside and let them like, did they just like stick them in the field and then study how they
more, to investigate like life cycles of flies and maggots and how atmospheres affect bodies in the state of decay.
Okay.
So when they're talking about taphonomy and they talk about the study of decay and fossilization, they're talking more or less about like bones in the ground. When you bury somebody or something.
Okay.
When they talk about the process of the body breaking down and fossilizing, like when we find skulls and bones. Like if you think about dinosaur bones, when people are unearthing those, they're talking about that process of it becoming fossilized. It's a little bit different than the way that they examine how the life cycle of a maggot is. But
okay.
Similar.
Okay.
So when they're investigating like that skeleton that they found in that mine out in, I think it was Colorado or maybe Wyoming, that guy who had his like arm or leg or something chopped off by an axe, and they found it was like a body that was close to being 200 years old, like in a mine.
Whoa.
My mind was blown. But they used this taphonomy to kind of figure it out.
Okay, all right.
And then I came across this and I was like, I didn't understand like how this could be used in a case, but it's palynology, which is the study of pollen grains and spores.
It's funny you bring this up, because as I was looking into some of the like forensic news for today, there was a lot of talk about pollen and like pollen actually maybe being more telling than people thought it would be. So what's the deal with that?
So I was trying to find cases where it was like an important part of the investigation, but I wasn't coming across really much of anything. But they're talking about, when they talk about pollen and spores, they're talking about people like being moved or shifted between, like if you think about crossing over state lines. Going from one environment to another, trying to pinpoint locations based upon like, pollen and things that are found on a person, because we're constantly being covered in dander and dust and mites and all the things. So if you think about like this year, this is one of the highest. I know they say this every year, but literally it is one of the highest years for pollen
I can feel it.
Ragweed in our area at the very least.
Yeah.
And so if you're thinking about like maybe someone brought a body from Wisconsin into Illinois, and they can look at the amount of pollen, what pollen is on you, and kind of see where you might have come from.
Yeah. Yeah, no, which
But,
when you think about it, it makes sense, but I wonder if this is like a relatively new-ish thing, like actually looking at pollen in that way, because if you're not really finding any cases where that was the case,
yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, that makes me wonder if they just haven't really developed it fully or like been able to use it properly in any cases yet.
Yeah, I imagine it's very hard because, I mean, for the most part, pollen is not very visible
Right.
unless you're in like a really high
Yeah, and you would have to have like
field area.
super high powered magnoscopes, I would assume, in order to see it.
So. But that kind of goes hand in hand with the entomology when they're talking about bugs and things being in and on the body. That's usually what they use to determine location. Is a lot of times the bugs that they'll find on you, like if the person's been in water or not, versus in a forest or in the grass area. But I also thought it was pretty interesting because my sister is very into microbiology, so I read a little bit about tracing bacteriology and virology in terms of cases having to do with people who are like purposefully, injected with something or
Okay.
because we've covered cases where people are purposefully making other people sick.
Yep.
And so they can kind of study the bacteria and the viruses within a person's body to determine if it came from a particular place. So a lot of places like the CDC and other laboratories will have certain strains of bacterias or viruses that are like earmarked for lab use, and you can kind of tell if that's something that was developed within a lab or
Right.
naturally. You can kind of test the mutation rates and things like that to determine how long somebody's had it, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So that was pretty interesting. But one of the cases that I came across, so I was like really trying to find cases to put together with some of this because I was like, we could talk about it, but if there's not a case, it's like, how can you really
true. Yeah.
knowledge?
Right.
So, forensic botany.
Okay.
You're like, WTF? Plants. Study of plants is botany, in case you didn't know that.
Okay. Give me a little credit, Janelle.
This is for the audience.
Oh,
okay. You know what botany is.
I took it very personally.
Giant plants. So this is kind of something that's not used very often, and I found a case that talked a little bit about forensic botany. So Ian Huntley was convicted of the murders of Holly Wells and Jessica Chapman in 2003, in part due to evidence of nettle disturbances and pollen.
Okay.
So nettles are these greenery thickets. They're edible, in case you're wondering, but you have to cook them. But they are something that comes back every year, and they usually are in the same spot, and they're very thick and dense, and they can become like a little invasive if they're not cut back.
Yeah.
So it's kind of something that's like you'll notice or see if somebody is, walking in a nettle patch or whatever. Like it's very evident. So at the hearing for the murders, the forensic ecologist / botanist, and then they also called a palynologist, who is the pollen specialist.
Okay.
They kind of went on to explain that the foliage around the ditch where the girls' bodies were concealed appeared to be untouched. Now, some stinging nettles have sprouted side shoots, which only happen when they have been trampled upon. So it's kind of like this reflex. If they're stepped on, they kind of like expand and grow out more shoots.
Okay.
To kind of like cover itself back up. So they grow in mass.
Okay.
It's similar to the way that ferns kind of coil and shoot out additional shoots.
Okay.
So the rate of new growth led the botanist to believe that the plants had been disturbed 13 and a half days earlier, giving the police an indication of when the girls had been killed. So instead of just looking at, body temperature and rate of decay, they were able to deduce even further how long that the bodies had been in the ditch based upon the rate and growth of the nettles that they were kind of hidden inside of. So I thought that was pretty interesting use of forensic botany.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And I think that's one of the things that is probably, because it's not necessarily used in as many cases, I don't think as many people see it. Like, forensic botany is not something that you see on an episode of, like, CSI, so...
Yeah, exactly.
But that's pretty
for
cool.
Blood spatter,
Yeah.
Or something to do with luminol. And
like, all of the fake sciences is kind of what they go toward.
Yeah,
like,
immediately. They're like, ooh, burn patterns on linoleum. Legit.
Ding, ding, ding. I know.
Wrong.
Yeah.
It's always the glue. It's always the glue.
Oh my god.
So, another, trace evidence thing that I was looking at. So trace evidence generally is like hair, carpet, dirt, like particulate matter. But what about glitter?
Okay. About
glitter?
Glitter is awful. It's like
it is particulate.
I think it's like the craft equivalent
the
of
piece of crafts. Yeah.
I mean, I wasn't gonna go there, but
glitter has been used to solve cases.
That does not surprise me at all. Pro tip, don't put on a bunch of glitter before you go and kill somebody. Just saying.
Well, always wear glitter when you leave the house, because then they'll know exactly where you were and where you went.
Just follow the trail. Oh my god. That's amazing.
So this actually was used recently-ish, 19 years ago or whatever, in 2001 in a Missouri homicide case. Investigators used glitter found on a 13-year-old victim's jeans and bedspread to connect her to her murderer who had been at the crime scene. And then an Illinois kidnapping and assault case, police were able to match the glitter from the 12-year-old victim's shirt and clothes that they wore to the perpetrator. And in both instances, the perpetrators had the exact glitter in their cars.
Wow.
The issue I have with glitter, though, is that it gets everywhere.
Yeah.
So just because there's glitter in your car doesn't mean you killed them. It just means that person, you had contact with that person. They didn't even have to get into your car. You could have just touched them and gotten glitter on you.
Yeah. Now, is like a glitter comparison, because I would imagine they would do like comparing the glitter from this thing with this thing. Mm-hmm. Is that something that lands in the category that they call visual sciences? Or is it?
Yes. So they do the same thing that they do with like carpet fibers, where they do like the split screen matchup, and they're like,
oh my god, it's the same. Yeah. Or the turning of the bullet.
Just a fucking square over top of a square. They're like, shapes match. Colors match.
Oh my gosh.
But really, the thing about glitter, so in those cases that I covered, it was them like comparing shape, size, and color. I didn't see anywhere that they like found glitter in the person's bedroom or whatever, and then they went and did like a comparison of brands and things like that.
Yeah.
They did it a lot with carpet fibers. So like if they go to, like in the instance of the Atlanta child murders, they said that the orange, I think it was orange fiber.
Yeah, it was like something bright colored.
I think the rope might have been orange, or I don't know. Something was orange, something was green. So they did the fiber comparisons on both the ropes and on the carpet. And they were like, oh, well, we went to Wayne Williams' house and he had orange carpet, and there was an orange fiber found on one of the victims. So we're going to look at what brand of carpet he has, and then we're going to see if that fiber we found on that victim is that brand. How?
Yeah.
But like how?
Yeah. And like that's the thing. That's why I ask, is because things that are considered a visual science always land a little in the sketchy category for me, because once you add that human element to it, that is like their perception of, whatever is in front of them, you're inevitably going to get some failures and some false positives and some wrongful convictions based on these things that are false. I mean, like we talked about at the beginning of the show, at the beginning of the stream, the FBI had a huge issue when they had all of these hundreds of cases who had hair evidence, which was all done visually at the time, come back and have to be re-looked at or retried or relitigated, because it turns out that just looking at hair next to each other is not the most scientific way to do things.
Really?
I know you probably would have never guessed it, but looking at things is like the least scientific thing you could do.
That's like looking at a painting that looks like Starry Night by Van Gogh and being like, you know what? It looks like that. Yes. So it must be.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, it must be the real thing. Yeah. Yeah, I think, now that being said, like something with glitter, I think that is like a good tool to add extra evidence, but like I wouldn't ever think that you'd be able to convict somebody on that alone either. Like you would definitely have to have other things than just like glitter here, he's the murderer. Like that's no.
I found glitter on me, and I wasn't even anywhere except my house. And I'm like,
Same.
where does glitter come from?
Same.
So it's
yeah.
like, I don't know.
Bo's got a secret. That's what it is.
I know. I found glitter on Hans. I don't know where you're going.
Hans has a secret too.
No. Hans loves a good rave, so.
Yeah.
Rave weenie. That's all I got.
Okay.
For Forensic Friday.
That was awesome. I enjoyed that. I love hearing about new ologies. That's a good shout. Yeah. And if you guys want to hear more about forensic science, we did an episode of this. Or two? Did we do two?
There's another episode we talked about a forensic junk science.
Oh, probably. I was trying to look and see if I could find the name of it, but I don't remember. But it was like the episode where we had our first expert on, so that was kind of exciting.
Yeah, it wasn't like one of the.
It was the early, 10. Which I almost hate to recommend somebody one of the first 10 episodes, but that was a good one. That one was fun.
Yeah, that was good.
So we're gonna round out the stream tonight. Back by popular demand. So if you were not with us on last Friday, the previous Friday, we ended the show by playing this very fun game called the Florida Man card game. They are not sponsoring us. This is not a sponsored thing. No. I just love this game.
I yes-anded the shit out of this game.
Yeah, you did. So the way this works is I'm going to pull some cards. They are all real Florida Man headlines, and
I'm glad I'm drinking White Claw for this.
They have some blanks, and Janelle's gonna try and guess what the headline was. I'm trying to make sure we didn't I didn't grab any doubles from last week.
Ripped from the Florida headlines.
Okay. So, yes, straight from the Florida headlines. If you guys, I will put out there, if you guys want to get this, you can go to, what is it? I think it's FloridaManCardGame.com. I don't know. It's worth buying. It's like Cards Against Humanity, except you get these cool little viewers that you look at everything. It's great. Love it. Okay. So,
we have to play this in real life soon.
We do. I know, except by then you're going to know all the answers to all of these.
No, there's more cards than that.
There's like 100, I think. They might have an expansion.
What did I guess? 5 last
5.
time?
Yeah.
Maybe?
Yeah. Okay. Here we go. First card. Florida man says his blank downloaded blank, not him. So Florida man says his
work computer.
His work computer, okay, downloaded.
I'm gonna
you want to say porn.
porn.
You want to say, oh god, yeah. It's maybe?
Right? Yeah.
So Florida
downloaded the kitty porn on its own, not me.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So the actual. Well, you're pretty close, Janelle.
Oh no.
You got one of them right. Can you guess which one? Okay.
I'm gonna say the kitty porn's right.
Yeah. So, Florida man says his cat named Gary downloaded child porn. It's always the cat. I mean, is it technically? It is technically.
And cat ears, it makes it worse.
It is technically kitty porn. So.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh, that's terrible.
We cancel ourselves.
Okay, so this one is 3 blanks. We're stepping it up a little bit. I think this is the there's a couple 3s in here, so okay. Florida man calls 911 80 times to demand blank, blank, and blank.
Okay. He demands pizza.
Pizza?
Weed.
Weed?
Pizza, weed, and I don't know. I'm gonna say an alligator because there's always a fucking reptile involved.
It is Florida. Okay. So Florida man calls 911 80 times to demand pizza, weed, and an alligator.
Yes. An alligator smoking weed, eating a pizza.
I want all of them in one. Only in Florida could you find that, actually. So the actual headline is Florida man calls 911 80 times to demand Kool-Aid, hamburgers, and weed. So you got one.
I got one, and I knew it was food because if there's weed, there's always food. I was like pizza because nothing goes better with weed than pizza. Kool-Aid.
I mean, it's Florida.
Only if it's in the squeezy bottles will I drink the Kool-Aid.
The squeezy bottle Kool-Aid. Call 911 for that next time you need it. Don't do that. Don't actually call 911 for that. All right. Next one. Florida man. This is another 3 blank one.
Oh boy, okay.
Florida man breaks into home, steals blank, poops on blank, and falls asleep on blank. I love that. Those are the best prompts ever. Steals?
Dr. Pepper.
I feel like that was a headline that we just read not that long ago.
Poops on family photos.
Okay.
And falls asleep in the dog bed.
In the dog bed. Okay. Poops on family photos. It's weird.
Just puts it on the ground.
Takes a big poop. Oh god. Now I have that visual in my head.
Yes, you're welcome.
Florida man breaks into home, steals alcohol, poops on floor, and falls asleep on couch.
You know, I'm so close.
That's actually less exciting than I thought it would be.
Mine was far more fun.
Yes, it was. I like the falls asleep on dog bed.
I think I'm so good at this game because I have the name of like a Florida Panhandle stripper, so I just channeled that.
Janelle? Is that a stripper name?
Janelle Ray.
Oh, okay.
So, Florida stripper.
Okay, so this one's only 2.
Okay.
Florida man disguises himself in blank costume as he tries to burn down former lover's house with blank. So you need his costume and what he tried to burn the house down with.
Dressed in a Big Bird costume.
Hot dog costume.
And he tries to burn it down with a pack of Newports.
A whole pack? A waste of cigarettes.
Menthol, baby.
Oh my gosh.
Burnt powder.
Flora, oh my, you would not have gotten this one, I think, even if you tried real hard.
Okay.
Florida man disguises himself in bull costume as he tries to burn down former lover's house with pasta sauce.
But how?
Well, so I'm also pretty sure that we talked about something similar on one of our food-related episodes where the guy tried...
The person was in the house and they just let the food keep cooking on the stove.
Yeah, but maybe he was in the house.
You're disguised.
Are you just
mean that you're outside the house?
Are you just imagining somebody dressed as a bull throwing pasta at somebody's house?
Could you imagine a jar of pasta sauce with a wick in it? And you're just like, this is flammable, right?
Only if you make your pasta sauce with gasoline. Then it's not great.
Tomatoes have acid, right?
Yeah, that's totally how it works.
Wrong.
Alright, last one. You gotta finish strong. See how well you know Florida.
Alright, I hope you picked a good one.
Florida woman arrested after she reportedly blank and then blank on a man who complained.
Read it one more time.
Florida woman arrested after she reportedly blank and then blank on a man who complained.
She's arrested after she blanked something, and then she did something to the person that reported her. I feel like this could have been written differently. Throwing me off a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to say she peed on the person.
Okay.
Whatever it is that she was arrested for.
First or after? Was she peeing on the person who complained?
Yes, she peed on the person who complained.
Okay.
But what was she being complained about?
Being a Karen. That term did not exist when this was written.
I don't know.
She reportedly
stole
farted.
Some cupcakes. She stole some cupcakes and she peed on someone who complained about it.
Ooh.
She stole some ding-dongs and she peed on the guy who complained about it.
Oh my god, I got this one right.
You did?
I did. Part of it. Florida woman arrested after she reportedly farted loudly and then pulled a knife on a man who complained.
Man, that's 0 to 10 right there.
He's like, you don't like these farts? Too bad. Shake.
But also, why would you be so vehemently you farted? Okay.
Dude, I don't know. Oh my god.
Worry, bro.
So that was our Florida Man card game to round out our Friday night live stream. I just smacked my hand on this desk. Ow.
Brand new desk.
The brand new desk. I know you guys can't see, and I'm not going to show because it's already kind of messy because I've been doing so much working on this new space that I have, but I got a brand new desk and it's
so much more room for activities.
I have so much room. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you guys for joining us and hanging out with us on a Friday night. We hope you enjoyed another Friday night live stream on this Forensic Fridays. Next week, we'll be back again. But keep an eye out because this week we have a brand new episode of the podcast coming out on Sunday. whenever I decide
Buckle
to
up.
post it on Sunday.
Buckle up.
Can we give a hint about what our episode is? Do you have a good hint?
Good hint. No.
Let's see.
I have to think about
I'm trying to think of something that could be punny. That would be a good hint.
I don't know.
I got nothing. Just tune in on Sunday. It's a really fun one.
Just wait with bated breath and anticipation. I'm sure later I'll think of something and I'll put it on
Like,
the
oh, I should have known that. Yeah.
because that's usually what happens.
Yeah. So that'll be out on Sunday. While we're thinking about it, if anybody was looking into going into the True Crime Podcast Festival, that event has been canceled, unfortunately, for the time being, at least.
They mentioned maybe rescheduling it,
yeah,
but for now it's canceled.
Yeah. I think it was pretty inevitable. It was right at the beginning of July, so we were kind of expecting it, but didn't want to really put it out there until we were for sure that it was not going to happen, and we got that confirmation over the last week, so we're bummed, but we'll still be at an event in August. You can listen to the podcast for more information about that. But
it's September.
September. I keep saying August. It's definitely September.
You better show up in September, damn it.
Please don't show up in August. Show up in September.
September.
But other than that, have a great weekend, you guys. Stay safe, stay healthy, and goodbye.
Don't pee on anyone.
That's great advice, Janelle. Good job.
Florida.
What they discovered upon their arrival was almost unspeakable.
We are all evil in some form or another. I'm not guilty.
The dead won't bother you. It's the living you gotta worry about.
If I couldn't keep them there with me whole, at least I felt that I could keep their skeletons.
But no matter what I did, I could not undo the terrible harm I have caused.
In Los Angeles, a killer the police are calling the Hillside Strangler has murdered 10 young women and left their bodies on the hillsides along the highway.
It was as if a wave of evil washed over this town.
We are all evil in some form or another.
What they discovered upon their arrival was almost unspeakable.
We are all evil in some form or another. I'm not guilty.
The dead won't bother you. It's the living you gotta worry about.
If I couldn't keep them there with me whole, at least I felt that I could keep their skeletons.
But no matter what I did, I could not undo the terrible harm I have caused.
In Los Angeles, a killer the police are calling the